You walk into a room full of people. Music is playing. Conversations overlap like waves crashing into each other. Everyone seems fine, happy, even. And within minutes, something inside you starts to close. Not panic, not fear, just heaviness. Like the air itself got thicker the moment you stepped through the door. Like someone slowly turned up the gravity and forgot to tell you. You look around. No one else seems bothered. They're laughing, mingling, moving through the crowd like fish through water. Effortless, natural. But for you, every passing minute feels like you're slowly being buried under something invisible, something no one else can see. And here's the strange part. You're not scared of these people. You don't hate social situations. You've had great conversations before, deep ones, meaningful ones. You know how to connect. You just feel everything. Too much. Too fast. And no one ever taught you that this was a real thing. That your nervous system might simply be wired differently than the person standing next to you, smiling effortlessly at a stranger. Today, we're going deep into the psychology of people who avoid crowds. Not because they're anxious. Not because they're antisocial. Not because they hate people or fear judgment. But because something in them knows, instinctively, that too many people in one place quietly drain something they can't easily name. Something vital. Something they need to function. If you've ever left a party early and couldn't explain why. If you've ever felt more exhausted by a crowded room than by a full day of work. If you've ever wondered why the things that energize everyone else seem to slowly hollow you out. This one is for you. Let's begin. Here's something most people never realize. You don't have to talk to anyone in a crowd to feel exhausted by it. You don't have to interact. You don't have to perform or be charming or hold a single conversation. Just being there, standing in a sea of bodies, can be enough to wear you down. Psychologists call this social density overload. It's the cognitive and emotional weight that comes from being surrounded by too many people at once. And for some, that weight starts pressing down the moment they walk through the door, before anything even happens. Think about it like this. Imagine walking into a room where 100 people are all talking at once. Not to you, just around you. You can't make out individual words, but your brain is still trying to process the noise. Still trying to track movement in your peripheral vision. Still scanning for threats, for social cues, for something that might need your attention. Now imagine your brain does this automatically, constantly, whether you want it to or not. Imagine it never stops. Imagine every face, every gesture, every shift in someone's posture gets filed away somewhere, demanding a tiny piece of your mental bandwidth. That's what crowds feel like for certain people. Not a party, not an opportunity, not fun, just noise. Endless, invisible noise that no one else seems to hear. A radio playing static at full volume that only you can tune into. And the worst part? Most of them think something is wrong with them, that they should be able to handle it, that everyone else manages just fine, so why can't they? Why does something so simple for others feel so hard? But the truth is, this isn't weakness. This isn't a character flaw. This isn't something to fix or push through or medicate away. It's wiring, pure and simple, and it's time you understood what that actually means. Science has a name for this. It's called sensory processing sensitivity, and roughly 15 to 20% of the population has it. That's not a small number. That's nearly 1 in 5 people walking around with a nervous system that absorbs more than the average person. These are the people whose brains take in more detail, more subtlety, more of everything the environment throws at them. In a quiet room, this can be a gift, a superpower, even. They notice things others miss. They pick up on tone, on body language, on the unspoken tension beneath a conversation. They sense when something is off before anyone says a word. But in a crowd, that same sensitivity becomes a flood. Every movement in the periphery demands attention. Every laugh a little too loud registers as input. Every stranger standing a little too close triggers a quiet alert. The unpredictable rhythm of 100 bodies doing 100 different things, none of it coordinated, all of it chaos, and your brain trying to make sense of all of it at once. For the highly sensitive, this isn't discomfort. This is overstimulation dressed up as a social event. Their nervous system doesn't get to choose what it absorbs. It doesn't have an off switch. It just takes it all in, whether they want it or not, like a sponge dropped into the ocean. And after a while, the tank is full. The system says, enough. The body starts sending signals. Get out. Find quiet. Find space. And they need to leave. Not because they're bored. Not because they don't like people. Not because they're rude or cold or incapable of fun. But because their body is begging for silence. And most of them have no idea this is what's actually happening. They just think they're weird, broken, less capable than everyone else. They're not. They're just built differently. And different isn't broken. There's another layer to this that most people never talk about. And it goes beyond just sensory overload. Beyond noise and movement and too many faces. Some people who avoid crowds aren't just sensitive to stimulation. They're sensitive to people, to presence, to the invisible energy that every human being carries into a room, whether they're aware of it or not. You've probably felt this before, even if you didn't have words for it. You walk into a room where two people just finished arguing. No one says anything. The argument is over, but you feel it. The tension. The leftover charge in the air. Something unresolved. Hanging between them like smoke. Now multiply that by 50, 100, 1,000. For some, being in a crowd means absorbing bits and pieces of everyone around them. The anxiety of the stranger next to them. The restlessness of the group by the door. The low hum of collective impatience, excitement, irritation, boredom, longing, frustration, all of it swirling together in one space. All of it pressing against them without permission. None of it belongs to them. But they carry it anyway. Like emotional hitchhikers they never agreed to pick up. And when they finally leave, when they step outside and take a breath of fresh air, it feels like taking off a coat they didn't realize they were wearing. Heavy, damp, not theirs, never theirs. But somehow, on their shoulders the entire time. This is why some people feel more like themselves alone. Not because they're hiding. Not because they fear connection. But because solitude is the only place where they can finally hear their own thoughts without interference. The only place where their emotions are actually theirs. Here's where it gets painful. Where the psychology meets the culture. Where the wiring meets the world. We live in a society that celebrates the crowd. The festival. The networking event. The packed stadium. The sold-out concert. The party that doesn't stop until sunrise. We're told that these are the moments that matter. That memories are made in the chaos. That you're only really living if you're out there, in the thick of it, surrounded by energy and noise and people. And if you don't want to be there, something must be wrong with you. You've heard the labels. Antisocial, boring, too sensitive, party pooper, killjoy. You've seen the looks when you say you'd rather stay home, the slight confusion, the subtle judgment, the assumption that you're missing out on life because you don't want to be surrounded by strangers. Friends stop inviting you. Family wonders if you're depressed. Coworkers assume you think you're better than them. And slowly, quietly, you start to believe it too, that you're broken, that you're missing some fundamental piece that everyone else was born with. But here's what no one tells you. Avoiding crowds isn't the same as avoiding life. It's not fear. It's not failure. It's not a disorder or a dysfunction or a character defect. It's a different relationship with stimulation. A different threshold for what feels nourishing versus what feels depleting. A different way of being human that's just as valid as any other. Some people are energized by the chaos. They need it. They thrive in it. It wakes them up and makes them feel alive. But you? You might be someone who thrives in the spaces between, in the quiet corners, in the one-on-one conversations that actually go somewhere, in the slow mornings and the still evenings and the moments of peace that most people rush past without noticing. That's not a flaw. That's self-awareness. That's knowing who you are instead of performing who you're supposed to be. And the sooner you stop apologizing for it, the sooner you can start building a life that actually fits. I want to pause here and speak directly to you. If you've ever left a crowded place early and felt guilty about it, if you've ever made up an excuse just to get out, telling people you weren't feeling well, when really, you just couldn't take another minute. If you've ever sat in your car afterward, in the parking lot, engine off, just decompressing, letting the silence wash over you, wondering why that was so hard when everyone else seemed perfectly fine. You're not alone. There are more of us than you think. People who feel too much. People who need space to breathe. People who have spent years, sometimes decades, thinking something was fundamentally broken inside them, when really, they were just wired for depth instead of noise. So if this resonates with you, if something in this video made you feel seen in a way you haven't felt before, I want to invite you to leave a comment. Just 2 words. I understand. That's it. Not for me. For the next person who watches this video at 2 in the morning, wondering if they're the only one who feels this way. For the person who needs to scroll down and see proof that they're not alone. That there's a whole community of people who get it. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply let someone else feel seen. Your comment might be the thing that changes someone's night, someone's week, someone's understanding of themselves. So if you're willing, drop those 2 words below, and let's build something here. Now, I want to be honest about something, because not all crowd avoidance is the same, and pretending otherwise would be doing you a disservice. There's a difference between staying away from crowds because they drain you and staying away because you're afraid. One is a boundary. The other might be a barrier, and they lead to very different places. Social anxiety says, I can't. It comes with racing thoughts, with worst-case scenarios playing on repeat, with a body that tenses up at the mere idea of being seen or judged. It tells you that something bad will happen if you go, that people will laugh, that you'll say something stupid, that you'll be exposed somehow. Crowd preference says, I don't want to. It comes with clarity, with self-knowledge, with a calm understanding that this environment simply doesn't serve you. It's not about fear. It's about fit. You could go. You'd survive. You just know it wouldn't nourish you. Both are real. Both are valid. But they lead to very different lives. If you avoid crowds out of fear, that fear will follow you everywhere. It will shrink your world inch by inch. It will convince you that safety only exists in smaller and smaller spaces until you've built yourself a very comfortable prison. But if you avoid crowds out of preference, you're not shrinking. You're choosing. You're protecting your energy so you can spend it on what actually matters. You're not running from life. You're running toward a different version of it. Only you know which one is true for you. And that's a question worth sitting with, honestly, without judgment. Here's something beautiful about people who avoid crowds. Something most of them don't even realize about themselves. Their inner world is often rich beyond measure. They don't need constant stimulation because they generate their own. Their minds are active, curious, layered with thought and imagination. They think in spirals, not straight lines. They replay conversations from weeks ago. They imagine futures that haven't happened yet. They build entire worlds inside their heads while the rest of the world scrolls mindlessly through another feed. This is why solitude doesn't scare them. It feeds them. It's not emptiness. It's space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to be themselves without performing for an audience. Crowds, on the other hand, flatten experience. Everything becomes surface level. Quick introductions that go nowhere. Shallow small talk about weather and traffic and things no one really cares about. The kind of interaction that fills time but leaves you empty. That gives you the appearance of connection without any of the substance. But give these people a quiet room. A single deep conversation with someone who actually listens. A slow afternoon with no agenda and nowhere to be. And something opens up. Something real. Something that could never survive in a crowded room. They're not running from the crowd. They're running towards something else. Something quieter. Something truer. Something most people never slow down long enough to find. Let me reframe something for you. Because the world has probably been telling you the wrong story about yourself for a very long time. People who avoid crowds aren't avoiding connection. They're protecting their capacity for it. Think about it. If you say yes to every invitation, every event, every loud room full of strangers, you spread yourself thin. Your energy gets diluted. You show up to things, but you're not really there. Half present, half somewhere else. Running on fumes and calling it socializing. But if you're selective, if you only say yes to what actually matters, if you protect your energy like the finite resource it is, then when you do show up, you show up fully, present, engaged, capable of the kind of attention and depth that most people are too scattered to give. This is what crowd avoiders often do without even realizing it. They protect their energy instinctively, and when they finally spend it, they spend it on what counts, on the people who matter, on the moments that deserve their full presence. That's not antisocial. That's wisdom. That's knowing yourself well enough to live according to your actual design, instead of the one society handed you without asking if it fit. So here's where I'll leave you. If you've spent years feeling like something was wrong with you for not wanting to be where everyone else is, if you've apologized for leaving early, for needing space, for being different, if you've quietly wondered whether you're missing some piece that makes everyone else okay with the chaos, this is your permission to stop. You're not broken. You're not missing out. You're not less alive because you don't crave the crowd. You're just someone who experiences the world differently, more deeply, more quietly, more intentionally. Someone whose nervous system asks for things that most people never think to give themselves. And that's not a weakness to fix. It's a wiring to understand, to respect, to build your life around, instead of constantly fighting against. The next time you feel the pull to leave the crowd, don't fight it. Don't shame yourself for it. Don't make up excuses or feel guilty or wonder what's wrong with you. Just ask one simple question. Is this avoidance? Or is this me finally listening to what I've always known? Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the noise, walk toward the quiet, and build the kind of life that actually fits the person you've always been. If this resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe. There's more coming on the psychology that most people never hear about themselves. The kind of truth that changes how you see everything. And I think you're ready for it.